Howdy folks, and welcome back to another episode of Building the Back to the Future Delorean. This is going to be issue 22. For those following this series, issue 21 was a bit of a pain. A whole bunch of tiny, itty-bitty little parts. Well, guess what? We've got more parts, and they're even tinier than they were in the last episode. So this one should be all sorts of fun. So, without further ado, let's get started. Here's all our pieces. We're going to be continuing to work on the engine in this episode. I feel rather fortunate that I was able to get that put together with very few errors. So here's our step-by-step stuff. Lots of hoses, looks like. Got some production diary stuff. Talking about the race to complete the film before the release date. For those of you that aren't aware of that, they already had a release date and then it got moved forward, which usually doesn't happen with movies. They generally get moved back, but this one actually got moved forward. So it was pretty much a race to finish the project. And an article on Christopher Lloyd. Again, only 2 articles like we had in the last issue, but you know, there's going to be like 100 plus issues, so you know, there's only so much stuff they can talk about. And to my wonderful amazement, it looks like we're still not going to be done with the issue, and or with the engine rather, and next issue is going to be a whole bunch of more itty-bitty little parts. Boy, I can't wait. So let's get started. As usual, I've got my 2 screwdrivers from issue number 1 and issue number 10, and my ever handy little pair of tweezers for messing around with all these itty-bitty little screws. I also have handy the engine that we've worked on so far. Looks like it's nearing completion. Hopefully it is. And this issue came in basically 4 packets, all with itty-bitty little stuff, hoses, the whole shebang. So I'm keeping them separate because I'm guessing that the hoses might be slightly different lengths or different thicknesses or who knows what. So I'm keeping all 4 of the packets that came in this one separated for the time being. So let's see if I can find the first piece. Here's the first piece. This itty-bitty little thing. And the second piece, also microscopic. This is the second piece. And it looks like these pieces are so small. I don't know how well this is going to show up on camera, but there's a tiny little notch on the inside of that one. And at the post of this one, there's a tiny little notch there. So we need to match those up. And we got it. There it is. Doesn't even look like we're going to be screwing that down or anything, which is kind of weird. But I guess we'll see what happens with that. And it looks like this is already going on to the engine somewhere. Really would be nice if they give you a full picture of the engine instead of a tiny little portion of it, because there's like no way to know where this is supposed to be going. It looks like this section right here is the front of the engine. So if I had to guess, this piece has 2 of these tiny little holes right here. And right next to the engine, we have this post and a hole. So I'm guessing the post goes through the smaller of the 2 holes, and then the other one is going to hold an MM screw, which is weird because that's from a separate packet. AP screws were in the first packet. So fortunately, as I mentioned before in previous episodes, I keep all of my screws. So if something messes up, I've always got a few spares. And it has happened. Okay, so we're going to take this, put it on the little post right there, and get that screw put in, if we can. Okay, well, I got it in there. I just got to line the post up and get that piece to stay there while I finish screwing it in. And of course, it doesn't want to cooperate. Naturally. I mean, why would it? Put it a little bit further. See if that helps. If we turn it on its end here, it'll stay there. Okay, maybe now I can get some leverage on it. There we go. Yeah, well, wouldn't you like that? Half of the screw broke off. So now, not only will it not tighten, but I'm not going to be able to get it out. Okay, well, I'm going to have to take a little break and see if I can get that sucker out of there. I will be back. Welcome back. I cannot begin to tell you how fun that was. I was able to get that busted screw out of there with a set of needle nose pliers, but it took a very long time. So, here we go again. Where were we? Oh yeah, step 1. 2 mm screws. So we'll go ahead and pull out another one here. Hopefully we don't need this for anything else, because this is our last one. If we need one later, I'll have to check my stash and see if I have any more mm screws. But that's all we got. So, going to be putting that right back in there with the number 10. Scratch that. I'm going to use the number 1. Okay, so get that back in there. And off we go. Well, this one's going in pretty easy. Hopefully that will continue until I can get it tightened. I'll be doggone, it broke again. But I was able to get it in there nice and snug this time before it broke. So I'm just going to leave that one alone because I really don't want to go through that again. So there's that piece. Moving right along. Got another one of these itty bitty pieces. This is from the second packet. It looks like it's going to be going on the back with this little section pointed to the right of the engine as you were looking at it. Just like that. And that's going to be 2 AP screws. Once again, my fingers are just too big for this thing. I really don't understand how an adult is supposed to put this thing together. Alright, got it back in place for the third time. Try and finagle the screw in there. Alright, got one in. Next one in there. Alright, and there's our little piece. So moving on. What piece are we looking at here? Looks like maybe this one. It looks like it. What we got in the diagram here is this itty bitty little piece here. And then this section. And it looks like these two pieces here. Let's see if I can. We're going to go into these two little teeth right here. So let's see if I can get those to line up. Yep. And then we'll drill a screw into the back of it with an AP screw. It's not wanting to screw in because I can't get any leverage on it. Again, all these pieces are plastic. I'm used to dealing with metal ones, so I'm probably lucky that the only thing that broke was the screw head and not one of these little pieces that I can't replace. Doesn't feel like it's completely tight in there, but that's probably about as good as I'm going to be able to get it. So there's that. And then it looks like we're going to be installing that. Where exactly? Maybe up front somewhere? Oh, nope, we're going to be sticking it right over the piece we just installed, it looks like. We've got a little notch right here on the end. And it looks like that's going to go into this far hole here. And then we'll put a screw in to the center hole. Just like that. And it looks like that's going to be another AP. Stick with screwdriver number 1. Once again, I'm a little hesitant to make it too tight because we're dealing with plastic pieces. So that's probably about as good as it's going to get there. Okay, and looks like we're moving on to this piece. So we got this up here, and this is going to screw into it, looks like with 2 AP screws. This one, there's no notch or anything to hold it in place, so this one should be the most fun piece yet. Got 2 more AP screws coming up. I think what I'm going to do is see if I can drive them through the bottom of this. And simply put this on top of it. I'm trying to get that hole to line up. Okay, looks like I got one. I'm definitely going to want to keep this one loose so I can move this piece back and forth and get the second hole to line up. Okay, looks like it's in there. Or maybe it's not. Go ahead and loosen up that other one a little bit more. Looks like the hole's not quite lined up just right. Loosen that one a little bit more. Okay, I think that'll do it. Okay. So in order to get the holes to line up, you have to keep both of them really loose, and then just kind of gradually tighten down each one. More plastic pieces, so be careful you don't make... Okay, so it looked like my memory card was full, so I had to empty it out, and we are back to work again. We just finished this piece, got it all nice and tight, which is this step over here. So now we're looking at step 7. Looks like we got this piece here. Got the bottom here, needs to line up at the bottom of that. Just like that. And then that will also go in with an AP screw. Well, I don't know if this has been the most difficult issue that I've done so far, but it's definitely been the most inconvenient. I broke 2 screws, camera shut off on me, just having all sorts of problems. Let's see if we can finish this thing without any more mess-ups. Okay, that piece is done and ready to go. And now it looks like we've got this piece. 2 more AP screws. It's going to go just like that. Looks like the holes are down here. So this should be the correct way to put it on. And that's going to be 2 more AP screws. Okay, got one in. Alright, and we got the second one in. So here's our completed piece. It looks like we're putting that piece on the back of the engine. Right like that. So we're going to have 4 more screws to put in there. All of them AP screws. So let's get cracking on that. Very much looking forward to when this thing actually starts looking like a car. So right now all we've got is the frame, which we haven't touched in weeks, and this engine. And that's pretty much it. Okay, I'll get all of them tightened down when I get all 4 of them on there. Just to make sure there are no further issues. little bit more comfortable working with the engine because we've actually got some metal pieces here, so I can apply more pressure to get the screws tightened in without worrying so much about busting anything. Okay, so I got all 4 of them in there. I'm going to get them tightened down the best I can. Alright, and there we go. So here's our whole top piece that we've added today. Looks like we're not quite done yet. We got these whole bunch of these itty bitty little pieces here that need to go into this top piece here. It looks like there's no glue, no screws, no nothing. You just stick them in there and they're supposed to stay. I have my doubts about that, but we will see. Go ahead and dump all those out. Okay, well, they do sit in there pretty good. I got one in so far. But it is housed in there pretty well, so I guess we'll see how that holds. I think I'm going to try and apply these with the tweezers. Maybe I'll have a little bit better luck. Or not. There we go. Well, they're definitely a pain in the butt to get in there, but once they're in, they do seem to stay pretty well. One thing noteworthy is there is basically nothing holding this up. So while you're pushing these in, make sure you got your finger underneath it so you're not applying unwanted pressure on the rest of it. Got a sinking feeling we're going to be putting hoses on these suckers. And not looking forward to that. All this stuff is just so tiny. Okay, well, not sure how well it's going to show up, but there they all are. So, now what? As I suspected, we're going to be doing some hoses. It says one end of a short hose onto the front right injector. And where exactly is it going? Oh, okay. So, we've got these three right here. And they're going to go on those little knobs right there. And looks like the same thing on the other side, which should be even more difficult because we've got all this stuff in the way. So, we've got three sets of hoses here. We're going to want the shortest hoses to go in the front. And looks like that's going to be these two. So we're going to have one. Looks like the short one goes on the very front section. It goes around the side. Okay, well, let's try and get it on that first. Use our tweezers to try and push it down. And then we'll put it on the front section. Okay, so that seemed to work. So we're going to use our tweezers to force them onto the posts on the side of the engine, and then we'll put them on the top here. I think that's our best chance for success. So we're going to do the same thing on this side over here. Okay, got that on there. And then around to the front. Okay, so then we got two. And then the medium hoses and so forth. And it looks like that's all we're going to be doing here. So here's the medium hoses. Same thing. Use the tweezers.